I feel like the First Descendant wears its inspiration on its sleeves, with plenty of moments of, that reminds me of this game or that game. But overall, it feels like it's also done something that other looter shooters seem to have missed when looking into other games in the genre. Looking at what currently works and attempting to build on it without diluting what made it work in the first place. I'm not saying this is the best looter shooter ever, there are definitely some bumps in the road, but considering this is only a beta, there is still time to improve, and with some tweaks and changes I can't help but feel that Nexon might just be onto something. Hello and welcome, I'm Abrax and I have been playing the First Descendant Beta, and in this video I want to give you my first impressions and thoughts on the game. First, a thank you to my supporters over on Patreon, more on how you can support at the end of the video. If you are unfamiliar with the First Descendant, it is a new free-to-play third-person looter shooter being developed and published by Nexon using Unreal Engine 5, expected to release at some time in 2023. The First Descendant Beta is currently running, letting players get hands-on with the game, and in this video I want to touch on a few topics with my initial thoughts: gameplay, graphics, performance, and maybe talk about the audio a little. Alright, let's kick off with gameplay, because let's be honest, as a game, this is one of the most important elements. In the First Descendant, you play as a Descendant, a warrior with the power of the Ancients. The best comparison I can draw to the Descendants is probably Warframes. You can switch between them in the hub city of Albion, and there is a handful of Descendants with different looks, abilities, and passives, each leaning into different playstyles. When you start the game, you get to pick from 3 starting Descendants: Lepic, an AoE damage dealer, Ajax, a shield summoning tank, and Viessa, a frost controlling debuffer. However, once you've gotten into the game, you can switch between these 3 at any time. When I started the game up, I actually thought I'd be running with Lepic, but when I realised that all 3 starting characters actually have the same attributes and can use any weapon type, I actually decided to run with Ajax, mainly because I knew I'd be running solo a lot and he seemed like a more fitting choice. First off, to me, the shooting feels solid. There's a good range of weapons, each with the different feel in the right way. The First Descendant does take a page out of the Destiny 2 playbook when it comes to ammo, however. There's a few different types of ammo that can be used across different weapon groups. To name a few, there are general rounds shown by an orange icon. These are used by assault rifles, light machine guns, and SMGs. Then there's impact rounds. These have a blue icon and are used by weapons like shotguns or hand cannons. This is a pretty good system that makes you really think about what you're equipping. There was a point during a Void Intercept, which are the Colossus boss fights, where I had equipped an AR and an LMG with a sniper, which of course meant that I ran out of general rounds pretty quick, leaving only my sniper, and this wasn't the best weapon when it came up against a massive guy throwing around AoEs. If you are familiar with looters, the character layout, gear and loot should make you feel pretty at home. You can have 3 weapons of any type equipped, then there are 4 gear slots: your gyro, memory, sensor and your coil. These all have their own attributes and they buff various stats depending on what you have equipped. These are then backed up by the First Descendant rune system. There are 6 rune types, with 5 of them affecting different weapon types, and the 6th being for your Descendant. These buff attributes or add special effects to your character, like extra armor on weapon swap and things like that. I'm only early into the beta, so I haven't had a chance to dig around with this full system yet, but from what I've seen, there looks to be a good amount of flexibility in this system, with room to make some pretty specialist builds. Some runes even buff one attribute, like say damage, and reduce another, like rate of fire, so there's almost a balance going on. This is a pretty interesting system, and it's a good way to make players really consider what it is they want their builds to do. When the beta ends, I will be putting together a full feedback video, after I've spent a little more time with the game, so I'll return to this statement then, and see how well it ages. Okay, I want to quickly touch on how you unlock more Descendants. For this one, Nexon really have been peeking over the shoulder of Warframe. So, to unlock a new Descendant, you have to take to open world missions to farm compasses. You then use these to run the Void Intercept boss missions. These can drop Descendant parts. Once you have a full set of parts for a Descendant, you head over to Xena and research them. This seems to take around 8 hours in real time, or you can spend a premium resource to speed things up. I don't really have a problem with this system. It's not a bad way to make players interact with multiple systems within a game. Let's talk a little about the content available in the beta. We have the main hub of Albion and 3 open world areas: Kingston, the Albany Mountains, and the Red Desert. These are pretty big areas with mission chains throughout that kind of take you around the area. Once you've completed them, you can replay and grind these missions. Something that does bother me is that for the size of these areas, they do feel pretty empty. If this is how they arrive in the live game, this would definitely be cause for concern, but with this being a beta, I imagine there's some things they have intentionally left out. I mean, these areas just feel too big to be this empty. I could see the game landing with collectibles, random encounters, and possibly even some roaming colossuses in the larger spaces, which would definitely make the world feel more fleshed out. I really do hope they add something, because right now these areas are pretty big without any reason to actually explore them. As well as these open world areas and their missions, we also have a collection of void intercepts. These are end-game raid-like content that puts you and other players up against a colossus, a huge boss with weak points and mechanics needed to take them down. These are actually really fun. I love taking on these boss fights with something more than twice the size of me. And in live, I can see these actually being quite a hit, as long as each of them have different varying mechanics to learn and master. Now, I have to be honest, I do have a few gripes with some of the gameplay. Okay, so I really have to get this one off my chest. We are getting to the end of 2022, and we've had some really solid third-person shooters, and this is something that's always been a staple of the type of camera or point of view. So why, oh why, can't we shoulder swap when we aim down sights? I know this seems like a really small thing, but in a firefight it can be a real game changer, and it's something that I really felt not being there. Something else that I felt would really smooth out the movement is a simple ledge grab animation. When you grapple up to a ledge, you don't catch it, so if you don't land directly on top of it, you almost seem to slide off the side, and it can make your character feel more like a toy than a living character. It's a small thing, but to me I feel like it would make quite a difference. Graphically, this is a really good looking game, which is what you'd expect from the new Unreal 5 engine. Open worlds look vast but still detailed, and honestly they look really good. However, the fact that they are so vast and so detailed might also be what's adding to that sense of emptiness. You can wander into buildings and they do look good. You'll find a nice detailed interior, but at the moment that's kind of it. And it's what's making me think there may be some kind of collectibles added in the future in the live game. Lighting looks good, and I have had a few minor graphical issues, but these are the kind of things that'll be ironed out between now and launch. This is where things do get a little hairier. Let's talk performance. For context, I am running an RTX 2080 Ti with an i7-8700K. Running the game on max settings with DLSS on set to quality, I was getting around 40 FPS in open world areas. Dropping down to high, which is what the game auto recommended for my system, but still keeping the DLSS on quality, I was getting between 64 to 75 FPS. This felt smooth-ish, it still did stutter at times and did have occasional frame drops. Keeping the game on high and changing DLSS to performance, I did start getting a fairly solid 74-75 FPS. This is where I kept it when I played, but I still did get the odd frame drop. This might simply be an optimization issue that could change during now and launch, but somewhere I did also see it was in the cutscenes. Every second it felt like it was hanging. Like I say, this is a beta, this is an optimization issue. Hopefully these all get ironed out before launch. The in-game audio is pretty good, except for some of the voice acting sounding a little odd, out of place, and to be honest, I could really do without the constant comments every time we reload our weapon. This is something that could really need dialing back a little, or maybe adding a timer so your character isn't chiming in on every single reload. Again, this is a simple change, but it's one I think players would really appreciate. So, I have had a few things to moan about in this video, but to be honest, nothing major. Overall, currently I'm having a really good time with the beta, and I still feel pretty keen to jump into the live game when that drops. Like I said, at the end of the week I will make a full feedback video once I've had a good amount of time with the game, so we'll see if my thoughts have changed then. Remember that this is a beta, and the whole point of a beta is to share feedback. So if you have any feedback, make sure you head over to the official channels and let them know. Bugs, tweaks, whatever. anything to help make this game more solid at launch. Head over to the official channels, give them a message. I would be amiss if I didn't mention monetization. This is a free-to-play game, so it will be monetized somewhere. But what is really concerning people is the publisher is a Korean company and they don't have the best track record with fair monetization. When asked about monetization in an interview with Digital Trends, Lee Bom-jun, a producer working on the First Descendant, said, "Ultimately, we aspire not to pursue excessive pay-to-win aspects." This sounds reassuring, but the word excessive makes me nervous. This still insinuates possibly some level of pay to win. I am expecting for people to be able to just buy Descendants outright, but so far we have no idea what's going to be in the cash shop. This is an area that I imagine myself and others will be keeping more than an eye on. I am going to be covering this game pretty heavily over the next week, so if you would like to know more about the First Descendant, make sure to hit that big red subscribe button and let's learn more about this game together. As always, a massive thank you to my supporters over on Patreon for helping me make this channel the best it can be. And if you would like to join them, you can support the channel for as little as £1 a month. You'll find a link to the Patreon in the description below. Have a great day, and I will catch you on the next one.